Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Can I just keep this guy's email account to me? Can we just do that for an episode?
I might consider that. Yeah, I might have an appointment. You gotta let me know ahead of time.
Okay. Anyway, hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Sid Part 2. Joining me today is...
Hey, I'm that Matt kid. I'm back. What's up? You thought you were rid of me. You're not. You're wrong.
I want to do a serious sign-on, but his face is just staring at me. I have to close out of the tab. By the way.
My bad. Anyway, today we're here to do a review of the newest Disney Plus Star Wars series for at least the next 5 minutes. Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or is it just Kenobi? One of those two?
Well, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, okay.
I think back in the day when it was being talked about as like a movie, I think it was just Kenobi. But yeah, it's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay.
Yeah, they never officially announced it as anything but Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the fandom, and I guess just for the sake of tweeting things out, have shortened it to Kenobi ever since they've started demanding it. Like, ever since Disney got Star Wars, everyone's always been a Kenobi movie. Like, Kenobi, a Star Wars story.
Fair enough. Yeah, so it's Kenobi now. That's what the fan base has called it, and that's what matters.
Honestly, that's what I call it too at this point. Obi-Wan's too many words.
They should have called it Ben.
That would have made more sense. Just called it
Ben, yeah.
Kenobi. That kind of would have worked, I feel like. But yeah.
Yeah.
No. They should have just called it Ben.
Yeah.
Not Ben Kenobi,
Oh,
not
just
Obi-Wan
Ben.
Kenobi, not Kenobi, just Ben.
Yeah, shortest words, quickest path, most memorable.
Ben.
Search engine optimized.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, today we're here to review Ben. What was your thoughts, comments, concerns? What was your general feel on Kenobi, Mr. That Matt Kid?
Oh, put me on the spot. So like Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's like the thing that everyone's been wanting is this fucking story. Like they've all been wanting Ewan McGregor to come back, and like that was probably the thing that was most exciting to me, because getting to see Ewan McGregor's career post the prequels, like with some of his recent stuff, like Halston, he's like super fucking good in. So I was really excited to see a more powerful actor, Ewan McGregor, come back to the role and bring all of his newfound experience, and also be directed by someone who is not George Lucas. Was very exciting. So like I went into this show with expectations of I'm going to see Ewan McGregor do some acting, and I hope that the rest of it is entertaining. And on those metrics, it generally works for me, and I ended up enjoying it overall, especially because I just really disliked Book of Boba Fett and a lot of Mando Season 2. So, like, Mando Season 2 and Book of Boba Fett were not a good time for me. So, like, coming off of those, I'm not gonna say this is amazing television, but it hit me a lot better, and there was a lot in here that I very much enjoyed. So, overall, yeah, it's pretty good. It's solid.
All right. I'll give my general thoughts because I feel like we're gonna provide the spectrum of the review by doing it this way. Hashtag spoilers. So generally, I liked this. I liked a lot of things about this. But I do think that this has a pretty obvious host of issues with it beyond just the constraints of how the fuck do you tell a story? Like, people gave, like, beyond just people shitting on the prequels, people gave the prequels enough shit for just like, well, we already know where the story's going, so what the fuck's the point? Well, there's no dramatic tension in these scenes. It's just, it feels so forced to get these characters to these places. To do that even harder of doing a midquel like this is a task in and of itself. So there's problems inherent within that, and there's also just the fact that like every one of the Disney Plus Star Wars shows are not a television series. They're all like movies that are stretched out over entirely too long a period. You can make an argument for Mando, but even Mando, like especially season 2 and into Boba Fett, really feels like it was just trying to be a movie, and not in a good way. So like all the live action Star Wars shows and a lot of the Disney Plus shows in general have felt like they're just trying to be movies, and they've all kind of suffered for it. Because it really does kill the pacing, and this is no exception. So I had an interesting experience watching this, because I watched it on my own time a week or two ago. And I watched all 6 episodes and, you know, enjoyed them to various degrees and had gripes and concerns and like, this should have been cut. If this were just a movie, wouldn't have watched it like this. You wouldn't have this scene in it. This is useless. This is useless. Da 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 da. And so when it came time to watch it for this, I was like, I really don't have time to watch, you know, all 6 episodes again. But it turns out someone made a fan edit, making a movie out of it. And so I'm going to be talking about that fan edit a lot because it works a lot better within that context. Still has problems, don't get me wrong, but as a 2-hour movie, it functions a whole lot better as a story. For at least me personally. So I'm more middle of the road, kind of leaning on the negative on this one, but for reasons that we'll get into further and further as the review goes on. Steve.
So this sucked.
Oh, I knew it. Yeah. So excited.
I just look, if you can make a movie like fucking Unforgiven, or True Grit's not even 2 hours long, about an old, disillusioned dude in a desert who doesn't want to be thrown into this mission that he has been forced into, and have some kind of existential awakening in the path of doing it. We've done this formula so many fucking times, and it's never taken 2 hours. It never does. It's so refined by this point. And to stretch that over 6 hours is just the greatest test of endurance anyone has ever given me. This thing could be 6 hours long and not get to the premise until the end of the 2nd hour, and then not come up with a better plot until the end of the 5th hour. The biggest problem I have with the show is it treats the things that you were supposed to be emotionally invested in as part of the story as reveals, and that completely ruins it for me. The fact that Rava is a youngling that Anakin didn't kill should not be a thing you find out in episode 5. It should be the driving emotional force of the series. The idea that Obi-Wan realizes Anakin / Vader are alive, it happens in episode 2, should be the ending of episode 1. And you know that they thought that also when they created the streaming model for this, because they released the first 2 episodes at once as a surprise. So clearly some exec sat down to watch the first episode of the show, realized, oh shit, there's actually nothing that happens until episode 2, so we need to drop them both at the same time for this to make any fucking sense. It's so tedious in that way, where I feel like nothing about it that's interesting happens until the end, and then it doesn't even happen, it just kind of gets mentioned. Also, I'm just very confused about the idea that Obi-Wan knows Anakin is Vader. That tracks with episode 3, that's fine. But that no one knows Vader exists, or Obi-Wan doesn't seem to know Vader exists until this moment, that's so strange to me.
Yeah, that was a weird reveal.
Criticism. It's just such a strange choice. to be like, oh, by the way, Obi-Wan didn't know Vader was alive this whole time. It's very odd. But I didn't like this show. It's got moments. Ewan McGregor does a really good job. I thought the episode where all of the plot actually happens in episode 5 is easily the best episode. And then everything else is just tedious and bad. Also, Vader attempting to burn Obi-Wan alive is kind of hype, and I was here for that.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
Shit.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty on board with a lot of what you're talking about, Steve, because a lot of the story elements, you know, I could go back and forth on the reveal thing for Rhea. I think it can work to a degree as a later term reveal, but I guess I'm more a sucker for those. I kind of like those. So that one I didn't necessarily have a problem with them holding off on it, but there's just way too much, like, stretching this out. And again, it just seems that all these Disney Plus shows are a 2-hour movie pitch that gets stretched into, like, 6 episodes. And that's, you know, a real fucking problem. So to watch this, it was something. I shared the link in the Geeky Gentleman group chat. You all are more than welcome if you are feeling like maybe I should give Obi-Wan another chance to check it out, because I do think what is there that's good. I think the edit helps bring out. Even then, it makes choices that I think are a bit weird. To your point about, like, nothing fucking happens in the first episode. He makes the bold choice to open the movie edit directly with Obi-Wan as opposed to any of the stuff with the Inquisitors in the bar, which means when he gets to that scene later on, it's like a good half hour into the movie and still nothing has actually happened. Like, there's no exciting hook or moment or anything. So everyone that complained about the fucking prequels and their trade politics opening Phantom Menace, Jesus Christ, they would have torn this apart back in the day. So I don't know. There's also things that just the edit took out that, like, I think just show, you know, that they were not necessary for the story, and the story's a lot better for it. The scene that is, or the section of the story that exists that I just absolutely cannot stand, and I'm so happy was not in the edit, is everything with Luke running away from what's-her-face at the end.
Oh, God. Yeah.
That whole that entire scene is cut. Like, the last time she appears in the episode, or in the movie, is dying on the fucking floor. And I'm like, yep, that's a good place to leave that character. I'm sorry. Like, it's weird, it's an emotional beat, and, like, I'm happy that in some reality she has a more pleasant ending to her story, but Jesus Christ, dragging Luke Skywalker into it was not the move. Because goddamn, that doesn't work.
It's funny to me because, like, by the very end of by the time you get to the last episode, Reva is really, and the conclusion to her story is really the only thing that I actually found all that compelling. I admit that dragging Luke Skywalker into it was probably not the move, but on basic premise of you're taking a character who is driven by that hate and by that revenge and by that anger, and then seeing Vader in themselves and what that anger is driving them to become and being able to overcome that. I think that is a legitimately interesting and compelling place for that character. I think, Steve, you're absolutely right. I think Reva's a missed opportunity to just straight up open with, because in a show that was written like a TV show, you could have straight up opened with, all right, here's Reva's backstory, here's her deal, and there's an ongoing tension about whether or not she's going to be able to get close enough to Vader to, like, do her plan or whatever. But when you're writing it like a 2-hour movie that's stretched into 6 hours and everything has to be a reveal for some reason, instead of getting, like, this tension with Reva, this, like, oh man, is she? Are they going to catch her? Like, are they going to discover that she's planning some foul play? Instead of that, you just have the entire audience going, "What the fuck is going on with Reva?" for 5 episodes straight. Well,
that's the thing, right?
Help the reception of the show.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is like I'm not against the idea of treating certain elements of characters' motivations as reveals late in the game. I think that can absolutely work in certain cases. But in this specific show, Matt, I'm completely with you. It's the same with something like, and we've talked about this before, like Fallen Order, where the most interesting part of the show for me is Rava or Rhea or Riva or however we're saying it. We've said it like 3 different ways this episode.
We have.
What's her face?
Yes. So what's her face is the most interesting part of the show for me, because when you find out that reveal that she's actually a Jedi youngling that didn't get killed by Vader, and this entire time that she's been trying to find an opportunity to kill him. One, Matt, like you said, it recontextualizes the rest of the stuff we saw up to this point about her being out for vengeance on a certain level. But it also creates this really great parallel for Obi-Wan being melancholy about the fact that he failed his apprentice and his best friend, and getting a chance to kind of spiritually redeem himself by seeing this other youngling that he doesn't have to let down that path. If this was a show that jumped back and forth between Obi-Wan feeling like he failed a student and a failed student, that then ends with Obi-Wan being the master we met in Episode 4, and Riva giving up the hatred that she had for Vader and sparing Luke's life, that's compelling drama. That's compelling narrative right there. But as it stands, the emotions of this show just kind of don't exist except for really sparse scenes sprinkled throughout. And you could say, like, on paper, here's a scene of Obi-Wan brooding here, and here's a scene of Obi-Wan brooding here, and here's a scene of Obi-Wan brooding here. I'm not saying that the scenes aren't there. I'm saying in the span of 6 hours, they are so sporadic that I don't feel them. And so when so much happened in the last couple episodes, it feels all completely out of nowhere, and it makes me want that to be the show. The show should have been episode 5 forward, not episode 1 through 5 to get there. And there's so much like packed into the last episode to try and force Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship to make sense. Because I'm okay with a midquel. I feel like Star Wars has kind of done shit like this ever since episode 4, really, where we've had so many EU stories just kind of sprinkled everywhere all the time, that doing a story in a dense period of time, forgetting the fact that like 9,000 Star Wars stories seem to take place between episodes 3 and 4, but forgetting that, like,
it was like 20 years.
Okay. Yeah, but like literally everything we ever make that's Star Wars related for like 20 years has just been between episodes 3 and 4. It's really annoying. But I'm okay with, let's do a story in between these. There's a very specific writing challenge that you can give yourself that says, okay, how does Obi-Wan find out that Anakin is Darth Vader and that he's alive this whole time? How does Ewan McGregor become Alec Guinness, because those performances are so different? How does their last meeting at episode 3 reconcile into the meeting they have in episode 4? I think that's a worthy thing to want to try and write. And it's a difficult thing to try and write. But that last interaction they have, and the dialogue they have with each other to get them to that status quo, is so forced and so out of left field that it just doesn't track for me. Like, I don't buy on any level that Vader at the end would have been like, "You didn't fail me, Obi-Wan. I was already gone." Like, that's such bullshit.
I remember,
why would he say that?
I remember watching that episode, and Carly and I sort of looked at each other, and like that line, that almost feels like a line that should have been like Obi-Wan should have said something like that. Like, that should have been the culmination of his story, of him saying, "I didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, you did." Like, that makes so much more sense, and it reconciles that guilt, and it brings Obi-Wan fully around, where he's not letting himself be consumed by that guilt, and he's letting himself accept that, yes, he failed as a mentor, but he did not fail alone, and it was still Anakin's choice to go down this path. And the idea that Anakin would conceptualize it in this convenient way to allow Obi-Wan to like expunge himself of some level of that guilt, you're right, it feels forced, it doesn't feel natural, it doesn't feel like something Darth Vader would say. And yeah, it just that whole like last interaction with them, as much as I enjoyed kind of the nostalgia of getting to see Hayden in the mask and all that fun stuff, that just doesn't fucking work for me.
Yeah,
it is
you're
really
100%
awkward.
right. That Vader is the embodiment of Obi-Wan's guilt that Obi-Wan needs to get over. The idea that Vader himself would let Obi-Wan off the hook is complete bullshit.
Exactly, and I hate that about that last exchange. It's so, like, and it frustrates me because then I'm just like, what is, like, so is Obi-Wan overcoming his guilt just something that he does because Vader tells him, no, man, don't worry about it. This is mostly my fault. Like, I'm just like, that's so fucking lame.
Yeah, no, that is a see. Like a lot of people are like quoting that one, and that's getting like all the images and stuff. And it's like it's such a weird thing because it doesn't really make sense for Vader in any way to believe that. Like especially Vader at this point, there is a version of Vader that I could buy saying that. You know, like your post episode 5 when he's really down and he's kind of returning to just be like a slave forever to Palpatine because Luke rejected him. I could buy that Vader maybe saying that. But just the one who's like still pissed and still like righteous indignation of everything and like fully believes in what he's doing at that time. He doesn't have any reason to question the Empire yet because he doesn't even know about Luke. Like he's still very much in this, and I don't love this place for Vader regardless, but still he's very much in this place of like of believing the lie that Palpatine has told him. And he's like he's sad about the position he's in, but he's still in that position. But yeah, the idea that he would in any way accept responsibility for being in that position at that point in time in the character's history, fucking nah.
Well, and especially not the guy who in episode 2 says, I will finish what you started, and burns him alive. It doesn't even track within its own show.
Yep. And like it's that thing of it's such a good when Vader is in episode 3 when Vader's fucking like fully going Jason Voorhees on his ass in that desert as just like fully picked up the slasher movie like creep. That shit's so good.
Yeah, no, that's hype. That's fucking hype. And even like what you said, Matt, like Hayden in the mask with the bits torn off, that's cool as shit.
Yeah, it's great
It's
stuff.
just not written well.
I mean, I think it's funny because, like, the comparison that a lot of people went to that didn't care for the scene, and it's hard not to draw this out, is it's exactly the same moment in Rebels. Like, down
it's
to
exactly the same as Twilight of the Apprentice.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Down to the mask getting split open and you see Anakin under it and stuff. And it's just that moment works so much better in that episode of Rebels,
it does.
Right? It tracks better with the character. It makes more sense. It's actually James Earl Jones doing the voice. So like, just
because that's the thing. Like, if Vader's gonna absolve anyone of guilt for being what he's become, it's gonna be Ahsoka. It's not gonna be fucking Obi-Wan,
right? Yep. Yeah, like it's just it's such a blatant like. Doing the moment again, and it's just not as powerful the second time. And they absolutely killed it in Rebels. Hands down, Rebels' best episode, I think.
For sure.
Easily.
And then they did 2 more seasons. But
Star Wars just can't win today.
I like Rebels. Legitimately, I like Rebels.
I don't even really like Rebels that much until we get to seasons 3 and 4. But
that's funny.
No.
No, legitimately I like Rebels and I think it's good. It's just funny because they really fucking set themselves up. I don't know. Seasons 3 and 4 still have some good shit. Like you get the fucking you get the Maul death in what is that, season 3? That's a good one.
That final encounter between old Obi-Wan and Maul is pretty hype.
I don't have an excuse. I like Thrawn and Darth Maul. What do you want from me?
No, that's fair. That's totally fair. But anyway, this isn't a review of Rebels. We should maybe do that sometime. But like, so just the way that works and the fact that it is just a carbon copy of a better scene just kills it, you know? So
also
that's
a carbon copy of a better lit and framed scene.
Hey.
Okay, this is like some random nerdy bullshit, but it's really funny. So J.J. Abrams directs fucking Force Awakens and reinvents the way lightsabers are shot on film just to fucking flex. And objectively makes them better than they ever have been, which is a fucking lightsaber. That's really impressive. Anyone managed to do that.
Yeah.
And it's like the idea of actually having a physical prop that is casting light on the actors is so good.
Yep.
And then especially after Force Awakens, like Last Jedi has some cool moments, and Rise of Skywalker even manages to sell this effect well enough that it's not really it's not one of the problems with that movie, of which there are many. But after that, yeah, man, they've really like leaned way too hard into it, to the point where like when a lightsaber gets lit in this show, it's just like
the only
blinding.
lighting.
Yeah, it's just blinding, and it distracts from everything else. Like, it's annoying because I see, like, of course, people complain Disney doesn't know how lightsabers work and shit. I'm like, no, it's just the filmmakers are leaning too hard into it for the thing. Like, it's still a great idea to have that be an effect, but it can't be the only source of light. That's the fucking problem.
Even if it's gonna be, right? Like, even if your idea is the only source of light in the room is the lightsaber, there is a time and place where that looks legitimately cool. Like, I have problems with the Darth Vader cameo at the end of Rogue One, but the lightsaber shooting out of the darkness and it's just fucking Darth Vader is the coolest thing ever. Mm-hmm. And in this show, there are so many things that are happening with the camera movements and the editing that I feel like it just keeps undercutting itself and making the moments that should seem really cool and like flexes seem kind of weird and jarring for whatever reason. So like the final fight in episode 6, when Obi-Wan's igniting the lightsaber and he's about to do his like classic twist the saber and have it pulled up against the side thing. Yeah. The way that shot is framed is you see him twirl it, and then it cuts as he's about to land it into pose at the exact worst angle to see it from. And it's the only light in the scene. And it's such a quick cut between the cool thing, which is the twirling, and the cool thing, which is the pose, that neither part of it looks good at all. And so then they're just fighting around in the rocks, and every time one of the two of them are trying to do something cool, it's lit too dark for you to see the cool thing they're doing. But they seem to be aware of that because they keep cutting before the actual cool thing gets completed on film.
It's weird because, like, especially
too dark.
Especially with Vader, you know, like it's the Batman problem, like the Nolan Batman problem, where like, okay, you've got Batman on screen and he's in an all black suit, and now you're shooting everything dark as fuck, and we can't tell what's going on. And like, it's just that same thing, but with Vader now, right? It's just
the difference though I think is the Dark Knight knows how to do that and why it's doing it. It's not my cup of tea per se, but Nolan is very intentionally being like, Batman is the darkness. Of course he dresses in all black, you can't see shit and the action is unclear, because in that moment it's hectic and it's chaotic and you can't see jack shit. With Darth Vader though, that makes less sense because they keep framing it as if you're supposed to be able to see everything and you can't.
Yeah, no, I don't love that stuff. Like, it's weird. I guess I'm getting the Steve Baxi effect, which is I had less problems with this going into it, but the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, you know, that is actually kind of shit.
And so, okay, but here's my thing, right? My thing at the end of the day is not that this is some kind of like egregiously bad thing. My problem is this show has every single problem every other Star Wars show and every other Disney Plus show has. There isn't a single thing about this that it's a unique Obi-Wan Kenobi problem. It's a problem that has its parallels everywhere else. If you're mad about the Vader dialogue, I can point to a scene in every other show that does the exact same thing that feels like fan servicey undercutting of the themes. If you're mad about the character motivations coming too late, I can point to every show having that same problem. If you think it's too long and it should have just been a movie, every other show has this problem. It's not that Obi-Wan is a uniquely bad thing. It's that all of these shows are like this, and Obi-Wan is just my unfortunate punching bag because I am so sick of watching shit like this. I'm so sick of watching 6-hour movies that wouldn't even make a good hour-and-a-half movie.
I just give Obi-Wan a little bit of slack because it's not Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Could
fair.
be,
You know what? The main character doesn't disappear for 2 hours. You're
it
right.
could have all of these issues, but then also not have anything that it's even attempting to say. So,
Yes.
like,
No, I agree.
yeah. So like, and the thing is that like there are these flashes of brilliance. So like we talked about episode 5. So like the idea, so we get the great flashback between Obi-Wan and Anakin in their like episode 2 get-ups, and we get to see Obi-Wan Kenobi's episode 1/episode 2 lightsaber, which is the best lightsaber of all the lightsabers. It is. It's my favorite hilt design. But like, and then you get cuts between that and him using those memories and sort of understanding the way Vader is going to behave, and like being able to say like, no, Vader's not going to do that, or Vader's going to keep doing this because, you know, he knows him. And I'm like, there's so much here that should have just been, like you were saying earlier, that should have been the premise of the show. Because like there are these moments that it really clicks, and it's mostly in episode 5. Because I'm like kind of like scrubbing through the episodes right now, and I'm just like, yeah, episode 5 is the one that just fucking hits.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay, let's go and follow Matt's example and talk positives for a few minutes here.
Yeah.
So my thing that I think I was most impressed by with the series is, you know, everyone was pitching, like, to the point where Ewan McGregor got asked about it so often he had to say, "Stop asking me. My answer has been the same. I would do it if they asked me, but at this point it's starting to sound like I'm campaigning for it. So, Disney, the door is open, but I'm tired of being asked about it in interviews." Like, everyone was pitching a fucking Obi-Wan series, but then the thing that was there was like, alright, but what the fuck would it even be? Because he's like in a desert on Tatooine for 20 years. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do with that? And I do want to give, like, legitimate hand to what I thought was a honest stroke of brilliant storytelling decision, which is to do a young Leia story.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
agree.
absolutely.
I really like, because like, if there's any character from the OT, the original trilogy, I gotta stop talking like I'm texting. If there's any character from the original trilogy who I would believe went on a bunch of crazy, wild misadventures as a kid, it's Leia. And I think that is actually surprisingly natural and works really, really well, and I like the kid a lot.
Yeah, no, I think the actress does a good job. It's just such a good, inspired choice, and it gives us such good mileage. Like, the fact that she has, you know, those tentative connections that she actually kind of feels like Kid Anakin, with the fact that, like, she seems most comfortable around droids and stuff like that. I really like that detail's really great. And just the way that she's so, like, mischievous and shit. I just love that about her. She legit feels like, no, this is Anakin Skywalker's kid. I really, really enjoyed that. And it just worked really well as a premise to get to, you know, create a narrative for the story, to create a break in the status quo for Obi-Wan that would actually get him off the planet. And I really, really enjoyed that for it.
I also think that the arc she goes on is probably the best in the series, where she starts from not even wanting to get dressed in ceremonial clothes and runs off into the woods, to by the end coming to respect for what her role in galactic politics could end up being. I think her mellowing out by the end is handled really, really well.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. I will say that the one thing that I think it does with Leia that just makes it a little weird, as far as like breaking continuity or kind of bringing up that CinemaSins level question, is just like, okay, so like Bail Organa 100% contacted a Jedi. There's no like there's no way out of that for him, right? It's just, yeah, your daughter got kidnapped and you sent a Jedi after her and he saved her, and so Bail Organa, we're gonna fucking arrest you and you're gonna tell us where this Jedi is. That's just what's gonna happen now. Like, there's continuity-wise, it seems very odd that the Empire never acts upon this, and it is like a little funnier, again, to bring up Rebels, when like Leia's whole deal is doing, oh, oops, the rebellion stole this spaceship from me. Like, so it's just it makes it just a little bit, you know, maybe a little too obvious or something. I'm sure there'll be some comic that comes out or something and stitches up this plot hole. I could think of ways to do it with like the remains of the Republic getting outraged over the Empire's actions and protecting Bill Organa or something. But it is just like that was the thing that's sitting there for me. There I was like, I love the Leia idea, but the fact that it's just so blatantly connected to Bill Organa contacted Obi-Wan and everyone knows this is a bit weird.
As far as things that I liked, I thought, with the exception of the dialogue at the end of the episode, a lot of the Vader stuff was actually handled really well. I love his introduction at the end of the second episode, where you just see him armoring up, which again should have been the end of the first episode. The Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers rolling around in the desert and jump scaring people was super fucking cool. The scene where he like force grabs him, sets shit on fire, and he's like, "I will finish what you started," and starts burning him alive is the coolest thing I have ever fucking seen.
That's like that 10 out of 10 Skywalker over the top melodrama I need.
Dude, that is an emo kid who it was clearly not a phase for, and I was so here for that. That was the coolest thing ever. And then the fact that when they go to that giant Imperial base, and it's basically just a graveyard of dead Jedi bodies. In episode 5, when he fights Rava, and he won't even bother turning out his lightsaber.
Yeah.
He's just dodging and force pushing and fucking toying with her. That shit was so fucking cool. And seeing Hayden in the suit with the mask broken off, I thought all of that was handled really, really well. I was a little perplexed by the idea of Hayden Christensen coming back to play Darth Vader, because, like, why? But getting those sporadic moments where he plays Anakin in a couple of scenes, and then that one moment where he is visibly in the suit and he's getting to do a little bit more acting, I thought all of that was really worth it.
Okay, so this is the thing to talk about. Go ahead, Matt, with your thing.
Oh, I was gonna say I was a little disappointed we didn't get more of, like, I forget, it might have been episode 3 or 4, I forget. In one of the episodes, Obi-Wan like looks off in the distance and he just sees Anakin like standing there in the desert in the distance. And the moment I saw that, I was so hyped. I'm like, are we gonna get like literal like haunting Force visions? Are we gonna see Hayden as Anakin like haunting Obi-Wan in this way?
Well,
and we didn't,
like,
and it made me kind of sad.
Kind of like the Wolverine, and I mean we do this in other things, but the Wolverine's the only example I can think of. Where, like, I think in a more planned out series, Anakin would actually be a main character, and Anakin and Obi-Wan would just be talking, and Anakin would be a ghost throughout the series, and it's just the manifestation of his guilt all the way through. I think that would have been really cool.
That was kind of the level I was hoping it was going to go to, but I feel like that was maybe more, I don't know, cerebral's not the right word. That was maybe a little bit more than what they were intending to do for that, but I would have loved something like that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're probably about to go on a tangent. I also want to go on a tangent, so I will go on a tangent after you go on a tangent.
Okay, because this is the interesting thing, because I thought the same thing, Steve, in regards to, well, I mean, fucking anyone could be in the suit. What's the point of getting Hayden Christensen back? So Steve and I did have a conversation about this last week, and I did a little bit more research on it. And so it is a weird thing, and we can, Matt, you might want to write down your tangent so you don't forget it, because I feel like we'll probably be on this for a little while. Okay. So Hayden Christensen, from everything I've been able to gather research-wise, Hayden Christensen is both physically portraying Darth Vader and is technically the voice of Darth Vader. So what Disney has done with this is they've used a program called Respeecher. And if you go look at the like full credits of the episodes, you'll see James Earl Jones credited as the voice of Darth Vader, but if you keep going, you'll see Respeecher is in the credits as well. So what they've done, because very particularly it's James Earl Jones, but it's not like James Earl Jones like it was in Rogue One, where you could kind of like hear the age in his voice a little bit. They've actually taken like all of the dialogue from Vader in the original trilogy and used that through this program. So what you're hearing is Hayden is talking, providing the voice through this app, which is then changing it into James Earl Jones's voice circa the 1970s and 80s.
I'm just gonna kill myself. That's disgusting and awful, and I hate it. And you know what? This is the future Disney shills want. Is they just want manufactured bullshit that doesn't have a hint of humanity to it. Love that for us.
Hate it. So mad.
I mean, it's
just
that's
like
physically revolting.
I would rather you recast a character and have an actor who maybe brings something admittedly slightly different to the role, but is at least something, as opposed to just dead sounding or dead-eyed recreations of existing people who are either past or too old. Like, I just fucking hate that shit.
No, I mean, like, this is the kind of bullshit they've been pulling for so many years now with this, with the whole Luke Skywalker shows up in Boba Fett and Mandalorian. They don't even bother getting a voice actor for him in Book of Boba Fett because they just digitally recreate his face. They hire a dude that looks like Mark Hamill and then just face swap Mark Hamill on top of it. Like, at this point, if this is what people want, like, every fucking time, this always comes up for me. Last Jedi just continues to age better and better and better and better and better because apparently all people want is they want Luke Skywalker to show up with a laser sword and take down everybody, and every time they do, it is a hollow manifestation of pure ego that is meaningless and without emotional content. And every fucking time they do it, they prove themselves right. Every fucking time they do this kind of bullshit, it makes me never want to watch a Star Wars thing again.
It's funny, like, I mean, I like it a little bit better here where James Earl Jones actually gets the credit as the voice. It is, actively made from his lines and stuff, his original performance. I think he likely signed off on it, but the dude's fucking 90-something now. I have no idea.
He probably doesn't understand what the hell happened.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you're gonna just reuse the lines? That sounds kind of cool. Whatever. $30 million, please. Like, I'm sure... I'd have to assume that James Earl Jones got, some kind of compensation for it, especially with being credited in the episodes. But I don't know. I don't have any confirmation on that. Personally, as someone who's more interested in the technology and stuff, I don't have the, I'm utterly disgusted and vitriol and outrage reaction that Steve does, but I am beginning to get to the point where I'm like, this may be getting to be a little too much, guys. Like, there's plenty of people who do a Darth Vader voice. It's not like this one thing that just, fucking,
We've been recasting Bugs Bunny for 80 fucking years. We could recast Darth Vader.
Yeah. I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm more interested in the fact that it was technology to allow Hayden Christensen to do the delivery. I thought that was kind of... Because essentially what you're talking about there is, like... All right, let me ask you this, Steve. If it wasn't some technology that was actually rooted in James Earl Jones's voice itself, if it was just a lot of really fancy, like, filters and dub-overs to change Hayden's actual voice into something that sounded more like Vader, would you be more comfortable with it, or is it?
No.
It's
The problem I have isn't the degree to which the technology goes to modify a thing. It's that we are defaulting to technology to solve a very easy human being problem. James Earl Jones might not be available. Maybe he's too old. Maybe he doesn't sound as good as he used to. That's a very understandable human being problem that you solve by recasting. By dumping millions of dollars into experimental technology to modify a solution that doesn't need to exist, I think you're reaching, and that becomes a problem. It's one thing to be like, I can't create a starship and expect to film that. So we use CGI to solve this problem of a thing we could not achieve otherwise. When there is a clear human alternative to the thing you're doing, and you choose to waste money on doing something else just because you can't get past the thing that you always have, that starts to be a problem for me. If you were gonna, like, modify Hayden's voice to that degree, just dub. Just hire a Darth Vader sound-alike. I promise you, you walk into any Star Wars convention, a dozen people can do a James Earl Jones Darth Vader voice. It is not that hard. You could pay them $50 and spend less money than you did on this technology.
I don't know. I guess I don't have as much of a problem with it. Do I love it? Is it my favorite thing ever? No, not particularly, but I'm not as bothered by it. I'm still kind of in that like Tarkin era vibe to it of, that's kind of neat. This is fascinating. And it's kind of funny to see how Steve is almost like 180'd, where back when it was Rogue One, I remember when Rogue One came out, Steve and I were discussing Tarkin, and you were like, yeah, no, it looks so good. I fucking love it. It's awesome. And now, like, we're seeing that laid the groundwork, and here we are, like, 4 or 5 years later. It's like, oh no.
There's a Jurassic Park Jeff Goldblumness to it, which is we have been given the gift of rapidly advancing technology, and we wave it around like a kid that found their dad's gun. And that's my problem, is that we have so much technology that we throw into things, and we aren't responsible with it. We aren't thinking about what it can do. We aren't thinking about the long-term ramifications. I mean, the technology that Disney used to face swap Luke Skywalker is a pretty fucked up technology in much wider contexts. Like Ian and I have talked about this before. The face swap joke tech that you can use to put your face on someone else is being used and modified with an algorithm so that you can create fake nudes of anyone you plug into it. Like, there's a legitimate problem when these things go that far, and facilitating them and advancing them for things that don't need to be advanced is just ludicrous to me. Like, Disney wants to depend on CGI because they don't want to pay makeup artists who are unionized. That's the answer. So they'd rather spend millions of dollars doing this than just doing something that requires a human solution. And so much of Star Wars feels so manufactured by algorithms and technology that when it's literally produced by algorithms and technology, it completely loses the human touch to me. Where's the performance? Where is Hayden Christensen's performance if you're just going to throw his voice through a computer?
I mean, it's still keeping the cadence and the delivery, the intent behind the words.
Cool. So let Hayden do it. Let the actor act.
No, but he is acting. I mean, how's it any different than, like, me when I do Damian Wayne or Darkseid for
because
for our
you're
stuff?
Doing the voice.
I am doing the voice, but then when I'm doing the cleanups, when I'm doing the editing on the voice, I pass it through filters to take my already deep voice and make it deeper. I pass it through filters to take my high voice and make it higher. I add effects and reverb to it. Like, there is
you can add effects to it, but like you have to agree, right? Like, there is a certain point where the amount of effects you're adding to it are creating something that's going to be entirely different. If your idea is, let's modify Hayden's voice to a degree so that we can capture something slightly different than what he's capable of, okay, that's one thing. To run James Earl Jones's voice through a simulator and craft it onto Hayden Christensen when you could just hire a Darth Vader voice actor seems completely ludicrous to me. If you need to alter your voice to be slightly higher pitched to play Damien, that's one thing. But if you're changing your voice to degrees that could just as easily be solved by hiring someone else to do it, just hire someone else to do it.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think it's an interesting level of technology, and I don't think the idea of, like, oh, well, Disney's pushing it further by doing this. I mean, it's going to advance on its own regardless because of its utility. Like, Disney's just the one taking advantage of it and pouring millions into it. It's going to advance on its own no matter what you do.
But that's the thing, is I don't think it will.
I think you are absolutely wrong.
I don't think it's a given that these technologies advance all on their own. They advance because they are allowed to be facilitated and advertised in big things that allow them to get investments. The technologies that advance are the ones that we allow to push millions of dollars into. Disney wanting to do this on a multi-level scale is what's causing it to advance at a rapid rate. The reason microconductors and cell phone chips have gotten so fast and so small is because we've poured millions and millions and millions of dollars into the technology at a loss until we get it where we want. Most tech companies don't turn up profit. Uber is like $10 million in or $10 billion in debt. It's not that these things are going to advance on their own. It's that we are forcing them to advance artificially on a constant scale to a degree that we just don't need. We don't need this kind of advanced CGI that can perfectly recreate Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. Just hire another actor. It's completely unreasonable. It's not a thing that's naturally progressing on its own. It's a thing that we are forcing to happen.
What I'm saying though is this technology has applications outside of the entertainment industry proper, and so it is going to be. It is already in development. Disney didn't create deepfakes. Deepfakes were taking off on their own, and then fucking people just started throwing deepfakes onto Tarkin and Rogue One, and Disney was like, holy shit, this looks better than this $2 billion fucking CGI puppet we made. Let's just use that. We don't
have to get into the technology debate because we could go on for this for like an hour. But I think the point I'm trying to make is it's not that it's not being used elsewhere. It's that the rate at which these things are going to evolve is entirely dependent on how much money we throw into it. So deepfake was only going to go so far until it became a popular thing to throw money into. Tech companies don't promise you goals or benchmarks that are realistic, that accumulate or accelerate on a natural level. They're forced to accelerate at unnatural rates because of the amount of money that gets pushed into them. Deepfake technology was invested in heavily before Disney got a hold of it, and then got invested in even more after Disney got involved with it. You can curve that growth. You can keep that bullshit easily. We just choose not to and pretend like it's natural. And that's my problem, is that we keep acting like technology is going to solve problems that are not problems that don't need to be solved. And one of those problems that doesn't need to be solved is James Earl Jones is old and can't do the Darth Vader voice anymore. Just hire someone else.
I don't know. I'm still in the that's kind of neat phase, and Steve's like over here like, fucking destroy the system, anarchy in the streets.
Literally though, we just all need to go back and live in caves. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm more okay with it. I am starting to get a little bit worried in just the sense that it seems like they're ripping jobs away from people. But at the same time, like, someone's getting paid to put it all together, so there's other jobs, other places. I don't fucking know. It's a weird fucking situation. It's kind of crazy that we can do it at all. Whatever. Anyway, Matt, what was your tangent? Did you write it down?
Oh, man. No, but that's okay. I still know what it is. I mean, yeah, very interesting discussion from both y'all. Normally I would comment on it, but we've spent so much time talking about it. I'm more or less in line with Steve, but my tangent, getting back to the show, so, like, I have this pet theory about Star Wars. I want to run it by you. And I want you guys to tell me if my pet theory is correct or if I'm off base. Every depiction of Order 66 that is not Episode 3 is better than Episode 3's depiction of Order 66.
Yes, 100%.
This is 100% true.
Yes.
Fallen Order's depiction is better. The Kanan Comics depiction is better. This depiction is so much fucking better. So, like, I think this show, the opening of the show is actually pretty strong to me. Like, the whole bit with the kids getting, like, like the clones storming in, getting to see, like, clone troopers in physical clone costumes is pretty cool, because, like, George Lucas was weirdly proud of the fact that they never made a practical suit of clone armor in the prequels. I don't know what that was about. That just, like, got him real hard or something. So it was kind of cool to see that. But, like, the abruptness of it and the chaos of it was really, really cool. And it was a great scene. And you could tell that one of those kids was going to be Reva because there was one black kid, and you're just like, oh yeah, that'll probably end up being Reva. But, like, yeah, I just have this pet theory that, like, Order 66 in episode 3 is bad and stupid, and it's just like 15 minutes of the movie telling the audience to feel sad that characters we've never met are getting shot and killed, and then like showing Anakin killing children just to like contrive an emotional reaction out of the audience, because George Lucas realized he spent no time actually investing the audience in any of these characters and their actual relationships with the clones. Because it's like suddenly something like the Kanan comics or Fallen Order comes out, and you get to spend like any modicum, or Clone Wars comes out, and you get to spend like any modicum of time with like the Jedi and the clones interacting, and you're just like, yeah, holy shit, this maybe should have been in the actual fucking movies that you wrote. But whatever. And so like that actually works really well in like turning Anakin killing younglings from what always felt to me like a cheap like audience attention grabby type thing to like an actual like compelling thing that led to the creation of Reva. I thought it was really, really neat. I like the culmination of that, where the Inquisitors and Vader, like the Grand Inquisitor, shows up and is just like, yeah, we knew from the beginning, and we just thought your anger was really useful. It's very much that like Snoke
It's very
thing.
Sithy, yeah.
It's very much that Snoke thing of like, do you know why I keep a rabid cur in such a position of power? Because a cur's weakness, properly motivated, can be a sharp tool. And that's such a fucking great line in the context of that story in Last Jedi, in the way he's referring to both Hux and just telling Kylo straight to his face what he thinks of him. And that's a very just fucking like awesome like dark side Sith thing. And to see that sort of idea used here, I thought was really, really cool. That's really the Order 66 thing was more my tangent, but it doesn't have a ton to do with the show. So
No, I mean, I like the scene.
Right.
It was good. I think the version of the Order 66 scene I liked the most was from the other Star Wars Disney Plus series, The Bad Batch. That was a good Order 66 scene. I liked that one.
I saw one where they retconned the Kanan comics that I love.
Well, good, because those comics are bad, because I haven't read them.
Oh, well. Yeah, you should read those. They're
No,
good.
because they're bad, because I haven't read them.
But yeah, I just like, we keep seeing Order 66 shown in different media, because it's like, on the face of it, just like a powerful, like sounding plot point. And it's just, it always feels so hollow to me in the prequels. And even this, even though like I felt I was more invested in what happened to this fucking random ass Jedi instructor than in fucking Ki-Adi-Mundi or Plo Koon or Glup Shido. Like I just
Club Shido!
like yeah, like oh no, Ki-Adi-Mundi just got killed. Who? Who the fuck is Ki-Adi? Who gives a shit? Like, who cares? Oh, the droid attack on the Wookiee guy? Oh no, I feel so bad. Like, no, fuck you. Who cares? You want us to feel bad about these Jedi dying? Give us a fucking reason to care. Anyways.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing the
tangent.
prequels really don't do well at all, that a lot of these extra materials have been trying to develop, is that it never really gives you a sense of what the galaxy is losing by the systemic eradication of the Jedi. Like, if someone staged a coup overnight and killed all high-ranking members of the military, we would know what that means. But in Episode 3, when all the Jedi die and all the younglings are murdered, I really don't understand in the context of those films what the fuck the Jedi are doing in relation to the Separatists and the Republic and the Sith, who they never explain what they actually are in those movies. Like, it's just a bunch of people die, and I don't understand what their function is in this universe, really. So when you get to something like Obi-Wan, showing the one side of how traumatic it would be to have, like, your entire kind of culture wiped out, and the fact that the world has become a less safe place because effectively the Justice League has just been killed. And so the idea that someone will come save you from injustice has to go away because no one's going to be able to stop the Empire now.
Not that
Like,
the
that sense of
Jedi...
hopelessness is really important to convey. And Obi-Wan doesn't do it great, but at least it tries.
Not that the Jedi were ever fucking good at that. So, like, here's another...
Well, no, they're not.
Here's another goddamn tangent. Empire, get your story straight. Were the Jedi traitors to the galaxy, or were they kind-hearted people who can't help what they are, and you're drawing them out by doing super evil things? Because, like, the fucking Grand Inquisitor goes to Tatooine. It's just like, you know what the key to hunting Jedi is? You gotta do some real evil shit, because Jedi are just good-hearted, kind people who will always step up to bat and help. And I'm just like, I thought the official line here was that the Jedi were traitors to the Republic and trying to take over the galaxy.
I mean, it's been 20 years.
And I'm also,
it's
and I'm
been
also
10
just
years.
like,
I feel like they've just left it. I feel like they've just the pretense has been abandoned. You know, it's not a bug, it's a feature. You know, I feel like the early days of selling the Empire is you know, it's been 10 years. They don't have to try as hard anymore. It's fucking Tatooine. No one goes there. Everyone knows the bullshit, man.
Get whole planet.
Yeah.
That's fair. But I'm also
even by the end of the Trump administration, they weren't trying to like hide the bullshit as hard as they were in the early days, you know?
They weren't trying to protect jobs. They were just trying to get rid of the Mexicans.
Yeah, I know. Like it's
exactly
just
that.
You know, it's just I believe that one a lot more. That like certain branches are just like, you know, there's some lies to it. There's still some of like the narrative, but like they're fucking strip mining planets. You know, shit's pretty fucking bad. Like they've got enough of the stranglehold. The Jedi lie was just to get the power. I don't know. I'm willing to accept that one a little bit more. I guess that one seems almost more realistic to me. If anything, I'm a little surprised it took him 10 years.
That's fair. That's fair.
It is also progressively funnier and funnier and funnier as time goes on that no one has any idea what the fuck a Jedi is in episode 4 as all of these things are happening in between.
There's that. Can I talk about my Star Wars overall continuity nitpick thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I get that it's like it's kind of the bread and butter of the series at this point because it's like it's such an integral part of the very first Star Wars. But like, come the fuck on! I'm tired of sneaking into military bases with just like one or two people and like changing clothes. It's getting to be too fucking much. Like, just at a certain point, the Empire is just incompetent, and it's kind of driving me crazy.
It is one of those things where I feel like we have committed to certain traditions in these things that were in no way intended as traditions when they first happened. Like saying, I've got a bad feeling about this and everything.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know why that has to be forced in.
Like, I suppose it's not necessarily that it's a problem to Obi-Wan itself, because at least it is like an actual Imperial traitor that has access codes and has like a plausible reason to get into the building. But it's just, we've just done it so much, man. Rogue One does it. This does it. Original Star Wars does it. Force Awakens does it.
Last Jedi does it.
Last Jedi does it. It's so much of this thing, and
At least they
Rebels,
fail at it in Last Jedi.
Yeah,
That's
Rebels
true.
does
They
it
do.
like a billion fucking times. It's in every episode of Clone Wars has it. It's just too much. At a certain point, it's just like, why are there not security codes? Like, why is this not happening more? People should really be looking into this.
Well, it's the fact that the Empire is just not hip when it comes to standard safety procedure. I mean, they don't have guardrails ever.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Want to talk about one thing the edit did, that, like, this was the thing that, as far as the pacing of the show and feeling the most, like, straining to get it into a television show, to its detriment, was the scene, you know, we've talked about, oh, Vader dragging him across the fucking fire is so cool. And yeah, like, I legitimately like that scene. 10 seconds later, it is the most infuriating scene in the entire series to me. Because, like, okay, we established that Obi-Wan Kenobi is, like, not as attuned with the Force as he once was. He's not the Jedi he was 10 years ago. He's been hiding out in the desert. He hasn't been training as much, yada, yada, yada. So I 100% believe that Vader just fucking beats his ass in that first encounter. And, like, more so than that, the scene where Vader, like, lifts him up and chokes him, I totally buy that Obi-Wan would not be able to stop that. But you have to, just from, like, a logical standpoint, you have to accept, yeah, but he's fighting it. He's trying not to let it happen, right? Like, clearly, he's not just letting Anakin do this to him. But then, like, Vader gets shot at, and he drops Obi-Wan, and the fire gets restarted. And then he just, like, sits there and watches the droid take him away, and I'm just like, why the fuck don't you just pick him up? Like, you were just doing it. What the fuck are you doing, man? And that is the scene for me that, like, really felt the most like, okay, they're just dragging this out. This is not necessary.
Do you expect me to believe this is the same guy who, like, 2 episodes from now will literally tear a ship out of the sky?
Right? Like, it's just, oh, he's tired. What is the point? This scene drove me crazy. So I was really interested in this. With the film edit, they still have the whole sequence. And I don't think it necessarily makes it better because it opens up doors for a lot of questions, but it doesn't make it as, like, blatantly what the fuck level stupid. They actually went through in Blender and animated a stormtrooper and put it next to Vader in the fire and like, got Vader voice actor, so Steve will be happy, to dub it a line. He's like, should we pursue Lord Vader? And Vader goes, not yet. So, like, it like, at least implies that there's some kind of plan, which there's not at that point, and it creates a separate issue of problems, but it's not as objectively dumb a problem, so I'm more okay with it.
The Vader thing is annoying because that scene goes really fucking hard and then immediately gets undercut by having to stretch the runtime and lead into the next episode. But this show kind of has that all over the place, where I feel like they're always getting into weird shenanigans that last about 10 minutes that then just lead into the next episode and becoming completely inconsequential or make the previous scene feel inadequate. But like episode 2, like, I love Kid Leia. Kid Leia is great. I can understand from a logic perspective why Kid Leia would not be immediately trustful of Obi-Wan. But her running away and causing a whole ass fucking scene is so monotonous and makes her so fucking annoying that when he just dramatically saves her at the end, I don't care, because there's just a chunk of that episode that didn't need to happen in 2 episodes of the show already that feels stretched out to all hell. And there's so many little sequences like that where characters are just doing things to elongate the runtime, not because it makes any kind of sense, but because you just need to keep padding it out.
Yep, that exact same problem I had. I hated that scene. It felt like completely unnecessary. Edit just fixes it. It just makes it appear that they get separated and Leia, like, freaks out and just gets scared and runs without listening to him. Such a better cut doing it that way. So good. So good. Yeah, I like that.
Speaking of that episode, though, can I talk about something else?
Sure.
Fucking Haja, the fake, like, Jedi who is fucking going around. So, like, there's, like, you've got him and you've got, like, the Underground Railroad for Jedi, and, like, I kind of like, the more I think about it, I kind of actually like this idea that, like, the galaxy buys this lie that the Jedi were traitors, and then as the years go by, they start to realize what they've lost. They start to realize that they've lost the peacekeepers. They've lost these, like, arbiters of justice. And so, like, the Underground Railroad and, like, the fucking, like, the Imperial, who's, like, a part of it, and she, like, helps them. I think all of that was actually pretty interesting, and I feel like that's a kind of a natural thing to do in, like, an Obi-Wan type show. I was just kind of surprised that Haja showed up and then just sort of dips for the whole thing and then comes back at the very end, because I really, really liked him a lot.
When they cast Kumail Nanjiani for that role, I was like, okay, cool. He's going to be with Obi-Wan for the whole show, like his sidekick or something. And then they kind of set him up that way in episode 2. And then he just fucking disappears until the end.
Yeah, they just kind of dips. But I loved everything. I love because what frustrates me about that is that his introduction is so fucking good. It's
I
like
love it. It's
It
hilarious.
is a great scene. It's really funny. It's like a type of like it's a type of humor that just like I'm struggling to explain it. Like it's taking advantage of the property so well, and like of the just how do normal people in the Star Wars universe conceptualize what Jedi are, and how do they then try to present themselves as that? Like it's just such a fucking great idea for a bit, and it's really good, really strong introduction, and it left me kind of wanting more of that character than we got, because we end up not getting a lot of him.
Don't worry, he'll get a novel and a comic and maybe his own
I'm
spin-off
sure
series.
I know. See, that's like the monkey's paw shit right there.
See, that's the frustration though, right? Is like, yeah, that character is really cool, and this is a universe that's so expansive and has so many cool concepts and so much cool lore and history that every time they do something new or novel in the middle of all of that established canon, like the Jedi Underground Railroad, you're like, yeah, that's fucking cool. I've never seen that before. Do more of that. And at every possible turn, Disney and Lucasfilm resist doing that new thing and just give us like, Obi-Wan said hello there for the third time. Look, isn't this great? Isn't this awesome? Isn't this what you wanted?
No, it's not.
It's really not. It's really not.
I did not need him to do the pose. I did not need him to say hello there. I didn't need any of that. This show could have been 6 hours of Obi-Wan Kenobi being in his feelings and fucking depressed as shit on Tatooine and just dealing with little tiny local issues and his guilt slowly like being worked on over time in like an episodic sort of structure, and he could have never left the planet and it could have been real mellow, and I would have loved it because
that's the thing. That's the biggest thing that hurts me about this show, is that I love Obi-Wan as a character. I love the EU material with him. I love his history training with Qui-Gon Jinn. I love the stuff they filled in the gaps between episode 3 and 4 in the old EU. And this show gives people what they want, which is more Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi. But I feel like they take his teeth away, where the guilt he's feeling and the way of reconciling it are so passive and so outside of his control that he doesn't feel like the great Jedi Master that he's supposed to be, or the guy that would end up training Luke in the next movie. Like, the moment where he says, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. Like, that idea that dude is just so at peace, that nothing bothers him, that he is the sagest of sages, is not the character I feel like he grows into by the end of this. And I feel like he kind of just becomes more of an asshole if he just spent 10 years dicking around, not really doing anything of like personal growth or substance, having everyone kind of hold his hand through it, and then getting absolved by Darth Vader. Like, I feel like it's so lazy, and it makes that character way less interesting to me. The idea that like he's searching for Qui-Gon the whole time, and he can't put his mind at peace enough to be with the Force and see him is an interesting arc to put him on. But then solving that through no effort of his own, through nothing that he's learned, through nothing that has to do with his own skill and his own mastery. Like, people fucking complain about how Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi is bad, because why would Luke ever be brought to this low? Why would he ever fail in this way? Where is his moral strength lacking that he would succumb to this? And for Luke, it makes sense. Luke was not a character that had sheer force of will to get through problems. He was a whiny kid. Obi-Wan is not that. Obi-Wan has always been the character that's been about, I will overcome this. I will meditate. I will read. I will research. I will work hard. I will be disciplined and find my way through. And him breaking that will and rebuilding it is such a great idea for a show. And they throw it all away. They make him so much less interesting than he ever was before.
I will say though that Ewan's performance is fantastic for.
Oh, he's fantastic. He's an amazing.
I think
actor.
like you get to that like episode 2 reveal where Reva starts saying like Anakin is alive, and like getting to see Ewan acting out Obi-Wan's reaction to that for me is almost worth any level of like plot hole it creates, because I'm so there for that moment because Ewan just sells it. And like, I'll die on the hill that Ewan in this show gives a better performance than he does in the entirety of the prequels, because he's at least given something to work with, and he's not being directed by George Lucas. And like, his performance is phenomenal in this. Now, I don't love everything he's given to do, but I think Ewan is a real standout here, which is really, really cool, because that was one of the things I was hoping for. So I was glad to see so much time given to just Ewan getting to kind of bring us a new performance as this character.
I don't like the scene, but the moment that really stands out for me acting-wise, two of them. One of them is in the first episode when he's dealing with that dude and trying to get scrap parts for his little cave.
That's
where he's
cute.
just so
I
fed
love
up.
the Jawa scene.
Yeah, where he's
He's
just like
great.
so fed up. Where he's like, "I'm
Yeah.
sure you didn't steal it." Like, that's great. And then at the very, very end, I didn't like the scene in context because I don't like the idea that reconnecting with the Force means you can now lift boulders again. I think that's kind of dumb and boring. But the scene where he is able to do it and he's just got the biggest smile on his face is so good. He's so good in that moment.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, like, the Force to me is like the most like. See, the Force is kind of funny because I mean, it seems like the magic system that is most like it's the one that grafts most cleanly onto just like anime power of friendship and like inner peace bullshit. Like, if there's any magic system where you can have like this change of heart and then be able to move fucking mountains where you previously could barely do anything, it's the Force.
Yeah.
I feel like that moment works okay. It's just like we were kind of saying, because of the character work is just not as strong as it could be. I just don't think it's sold as hard.
Well, and again, and I always harp on this is why Last Jedi ages so well. Rey thinks the Force is about moving rocks. And when she comes to understand what the Force truly is and becomes sure of who she wants to be, she
Right.
can move rocks.
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor gets given that without an arc that feels compelling and then just moves rocks.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I liked Ewan McGregor, but Obi-Wan was probably the character I was least interested in seeing. This isn't really connected to the show itself, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. The thing that made me the thought that I kept having as I watched this is, goddamn, just give us a fucking Darth Vader movie. That's what I really want now. is what it comes down to. I know Steve doesn't like the Gillian. Gillen.
Kieran
There we
Gillen
go.
run?
Kieran Gillen. There we go. I know you don't like that run. I really do. I think that would be great to adapt into a film. Even elements of the Charles Soule run, where he like gets his fucking castle and shit, would be kind of cool. Get rid of the parts that feel like a video game plot, but whatever. That's the thing that felt like the most, yeah, we should just do this instead to me as I was watching this, is like, I like Ewan well enough, but just give me a fucking Darth Vader movie. That's all I want. And not a Disney Plus show. Give me a fucking movie. Part of me wants a Disney Plus show, but I know they'll fuck it up, so just give me a fucking movie.
So I know that we're on a train where everyone that's an established character gets Disney Plus shows and movies, so I'm not going to say, don't give me that, give me something new. Instead, I'm going to say, Matt, you got your Kenobi show. Ian, you want a Darth Vader show? Give me a fucking Count Dooku movie. That's what I want.
He's dead.
I was not.
I am so here for Count Dooku, the movie.
Yeah.
He's my favorite prequel era character. I fucking love Count Dooku.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I was not clamoring for this to be made. I was like, it's gonna be made regardless.
Sure.
At least I'll get to see Ewan McGregor in the role.
Yeah.
Again. So,
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I think it's to the point where I have accepted that this is all they're going to do. And whenever I talk about it, I'll be frustrated, but I'm not going to hold my breath that they're going to ever do something new and interesting again. But if that's the world we are in, if we are in the world where only established characters that are fan favorites get new material and it's all going to be memey, then at least give me the one character I want to see more of, which is Count Dooku.
I mean, I don't know. That's a weird choice because I feel like he's the. I feel like of everything, that is the least likely to happen.
Well,
Count
yeah.
Dooku is not well beloved in the general public, so.
Okay, but what's more likely to happen? That I would get a Count Dooku movie or Disney Plus show, or Star Wars will actually move forward and do something new and innovative again.
Well, they tried it, and the fans got mad, Steve. So
Exactly. So Count Dooku it is.
This is why I don't have high hopes for the Acolyte, despite
Yeah.
really wanting it to be good. But oh well.
What the fuck's the Acolyte?
The
It's
Sith
gonna
TV
be
show.
yeah, it's gonna be
Oh.
it's gonna be like a High Republic TV show. It's gonna take place like 100 years before Episode 1. It's gonna be about some like dark side chick.
Oh, that sounds exciting. That sounds new.
Carly's just like, I guarantee you she like starts turning to the light within Episode 1, and I'm just like, yeah, probably, but we'll see.
They're probably, because if it's only in the High Republic era, I think the rule of two is still in force, so it's not like there's going to be like a cadre of Sith. It's probably going to be a little bit more focused.
I don't really know exactly like what the canon explanation for the rule of two is right now, because like the Darth Bane comics or the Darth Bane novels are not canon, right?
Well, so
I
that's
think
the other thing.
technically the rule of two connected to Darth Bane is still in canon because Clone Wars is in canon and it's mentioned there when we meet Bane.
It is.
Well-
I just the details of it.
Yeah, no, it's a situation where the new canon does not have an explanation for the rule of two, but there is enough implied canon that makes the old ones still the only thing that makes sense.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, has the new canon directly contradicted anything from that?
No, not as far as the Darth Bane. I mean, they've contradicted things in the Darth Bane novels about details and characters and places and stuff, but like what the rule of two is in the new canon does not contradict what Darth Bane said it was in those novels. So at this point, it might as, and I think Clone Wars even says that he invented the rule of two.
Yep.
So at this point, it's still
Yoda tells us, so you know you can trust it.
Well, yeah, exactly. So it's still canon, but it's vague because they haven't revisited any of that stuff. Because I think Darth Bane takes like 300 or 400 years before the original trilogy, something like that. So it's further in the past than I think they've gone lately.
Perhaps. I don't know. Perhaps not.
Also,
I would
getting
take
to
a
see-
young Leia show. I would take
Yeah,
a young
I'd
like that could actually work as a show. You could do a different thing every episode. It'd be fun.
Is that what
Oh.
we're doing now? We're just pitching what our shows would be, our ideal.
Let's do
Disney
it.
Star Wars show?
I mean, if we're pitching what we would do, that's a different conversation,
Oh, okay.
which
well,
could be fun. But like, I'm
if
just
you're-
saying what seems likely.
Okay. I want Zuckuss and 4 LOM. I want a show about them going and doing bounty hunter shit. That's what I want. I'm like obsessed. I've been obsessed with those two lately. So give me a bounty hunter show about bounty hunters being bounty hunters, and not like fucking Mando. As much as I love season 1, and not like Book of Boba Fett where he doesn't do anything cool. No, give me like actual bounty hunters doing grungy, grimy bounty hunter shit and being bad guys. That's what I would like, and make it about Zuckuss and 4
Give me the show with young Count Dooku, comes from a rich family, decides to leave it all behind Buddha style to go and be a monk with the Jedi, gets sensed that he has great potential by Yoda himself. Yoda trains him to be effectively his replacement because he sees that he gave up so much to seek real enlightenment, and then over time, as he's being taught the ways of the Jedi, gets corrupted by the fact that their hypocrisy and the family he left are so similar to each other that the only alternative is to become a Sith. Give me that.
Okay. This was not my answer. It was the answer of my manager at work, but it's such a good fucking answer, and the two of you are just wrong because I will gladly sacrifice your hypothetical Star Wars shows on the altar to receive this hypothetical Star Wars show.
Fair.
Want a gritty, like, biopic-esque movie about Max Rebo in which it's like stylized after those musician biopics where like
Oh,
they
God,
do
yeah.
drugs and shit gets really bad and dark and like you play all their songs as they spiral into like alcoholism and drug use. Yeah, that. Give me that.
Okay, I'm changing my answer.
I want that too.
That's the winner. If we were hosting a competition to see who pitches to Lucasfilm, I think you won.
Thank you.
For sure.
We're your boss one.
Alrighty. Is there anything else we want to talk about in regards to Obi-Wan?
I was really excited that Deborah Chow was directing this because I liked her work on the first season of Mando. Because once again, I will go to bat for and suck the dick of first season of Mando. It's just so fucking good. But I thought the directing here was like really bland and dull and mostly bad. And like most of the shots are shit and most of the lighting is like even shittier. So
damn. I don't even have that much problem with it. It's just the lightsaber being turned on that like ruins it for me.
There are so many scenes like when he meets the runaway Jedi in the desert, and it's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just my viewing experience, but like I could like fucking barely see what was happening, and I feel like that's just like a trend in a lot of these like modern like Disney projects, like whether it be MCU or whatever. Like I just can't fucking see what the fuck is happening in it half the time. Everything is lit so fucking terribly, especially when it's dark. Like the lighting is so shit in scenes where it's dark, and it's like shit in a way where it's not highlighting the things the audience should be able to see most of the time. It's very
Moon Knight had this problem too, but no, I'm with you, Matt. I like Deborah Chow as a director. She's done a lot of TV stuff here and there that I've seen and enjoyed. So she's a competent director for sure.
Yeah.
But the editing and the directing in this is like legitimately just shit. Like it has no idea where to put the camera. It has no idea when to make cuts. Even if we ignore the fact that like you can't see things with the lighting, literally, I don't understand the thought process behind why is the camera here and the characters are there. And it's such a constant thing in the show where it feels like the continuity from shots to shots just doesn't exist, and my brain has to do more work to piece together. Wait, that character just ran right. Why are we opening in a scene that starts with a character coming in from the left? This is so weird and confusing. And it's not a thing that like you stop and think about in the moment, but you feel like something's wrong, so you go back and watch it again, and you're like, oh, it's because no one seemed to have thought this through. It's a lot like what the experience I had with Thor: Love and Thunder, where I'm like, I know this person knows how to direct, but for some reason they decided to just throw a camera on the ground and hit action.
It frustrates me because like you take the opening sequence of like Order 66, and that works so well because the like transition from like stable to shaky cam and like the long take, the way it just like communicates the fucking exhaustion and tension of the situation, like it's so good. And then like I don't know what happens to that level of like intentional framing and directing and shot choice. Like I don't know what happens to that after that scene. Like after that it just sort of starts to not be there anymore, and it's kind of sad.
Was it just me? And I don't know if anyone else has more to say after this, but my last little thing here is just was it just me, or are the LED screens that they've been using ever since Mando getting worse with time?
They're getting
because
worse.
In Mando it's amazing. It looks so good and it's so innovative, and then COVID hits and then everyone does it, and then the Batman like puts it up to a whole nother level of how good it can look. But then Doctor Strange does it, and Thor does it, and this does it, and all of the Disney Plus Marvel shows do it, and it's like it's getting actively worse because it's not a thing that you can tell most of the time, except when the images on the LED screens are themselves not rendered particularly well.
It's
and
probably it's what I think you might be catching on to is you saw this a lot in the early stages of like the blue screen backgrounds and stuff. The early adopters, the people that are pushing to use it from the get-go, know how to use it well. What then happens is it's very popular, it takes off, it gets used, but then the filmmakers are then being mandated to use it by studio, and so they don't really know what they're doing because they've not had enough practice on it yet, so they don't quite know how to shoot it, quite know how to frame everything with it, don't know really the pipeline for how to make it look good. I think you might be experiencing some of that. It's not that like the technology isn't good, it's just that the film, it's new exciting technology, and the filmmakers across industry don't really know how to properly use it yet. You saw a very similar thing with early development of CGI in film.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a great idea, and it came at just the right time because the only way to really film things like this is now with LED screens. Like it makes sense why we use this technology. But yeah, there's definitely a case of there are certain people that really know what they're doing with it, and then there's everyone else who are just being told to do it this way. Because like if you look at the Batman, it's very clear that they understand that the LED screens are casting a very specific image at a very specific time of day. So they're intentionally lighting the scenes so it matches what's on the LED screen, even if they're not there on location. So if it's right after sunset, the set is lit like it's right after sunset to match that image, and everything looks like it's there for real. But with stuff like the Moon Knight show, or this, or Doctor Strange, or Thor, there's no coloring or lighting choices really happening at all. So it's just like there's a flat background and then a person standing in the foreground, and you can just like really viscerally
Which would
tell
make sense
the image is
because
not there.
well, would make sense because if you're saying it's shot and lit and it looks like a flat background, that's exactly what you do if you're used to using a blue screen.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that tracks.
I think that's what you're picking up on. Which is,
I think
it's still a problem, but I think it's less of, like, I guess just the phrasing of it made me think that you were kind of coming off on just the idea of the technology is bad.
No.
I'm like,
The
nah, I
LED
like it a
screens
lot.
are a great idea, especially in the world we live in now. It's just the way they're done here, and in a lot of recent uses of them, they look a lot worse than they could. Again, especially because it looks so fucking good in the Batman.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at, like, even the scene, like, even though episode 5 is, like, a great episode, I feel like that's where I notice it the most. Like, when Vader shows up and, like, stops the ship from leaving, and then we, like, cut back to Vader, and it's, like, a shot of him with, like, the base in the background. Like, it looks awful. Like, it looks terrible. Like, not only is it, like, framed very blandly, which, like, whatever, it also just looks fucking awful. Like, it just looks like he's standing in front of... It's like he's standing in front of a fucking Ralph McQuarrie painting from Empire, except not as cool as that would be.
I mean, there's a whole ass discussion to be had about, like, going from matte paintings to blue screen to fully CGI environments to the LED screens. That's an interesting evolution, but
I
that's
also
a
think
different
part of,
conversation.
but I also think part of it is the time crunch these shows and productions are like on. Like you look at like the pipeline for like MCU stuff, and you look at the pipeline for some of these projects, and it's like I feel like there are some issues that could have been ironed out more had these productions been given more time to flesh their shit out.
Well, I don't know if you've been keeping up with some of the articles about the VFX artists, but there's like a whole subreddit of people that work in the VFX industry, and they've been talking very openly lately about how none of them want to work on Marvel shows because they'll spend months working on something, present Marvel with like 5 different options. Marvel will change their mind and drag their feet and be non-committal on what they want the things to look like until literally 2 months before the deadline and have them all do it overtime. And then you'll get them talking about how shit it looks, despite the fact that the studio didn't give them anywhere near enough input or time to make it look good. So like there's already an inherent problem of Marvel's over-reliance on CGI so they don't have to do other things is a problem, but then they don't even treat the VFX artists that are making these things work for them well, so it all looks like shit. Like, apparently, the She-Hulk thing, apparently there was like 4 or 5 iterations of what She-Hulk is supposed to look like, and it wasn't even in the bin by the time that trailer came out, because the Marvel still hadn't decided what they wanted her to look like.
Well, hopefully, I can only hope that some of that will bounce back in the public reaction to, wow, what the fuck, She-Hulk isn't buff, will actually get us buff She-Hulk. You know, the character design.
Well, but given also that like they re-released No Way Home with updated VFX because the VFX were not done when the movie came out, it's probably a pretty strong indication of what's happening.
Oh man, I love the world we're living in where movies get patched. I love it.
And again,
get a day 1 patch for my fucking movie in theaters. Like, so good. Love it.
yeah, like it's one thing when like Game of Thrones releases an episode and they're like, oh shit, there's a Starbucks cup on the stand. We're gonna have to re-edit the episode to make sure that never happens again. Which is like, okay, you don't have to do that, but fine, you can. Versus, we're literally going to keep updating it as it's airing because it's not done. Like, that's some next level shit right there.
Yeah, fucking what was it? You guys were talking about Stranger Things. The season 4 got uploaded to Netflix's server like 2 hours after the initial pass of Final Effects was rendered. I think there's already been an update to certain episodes for the CG, so it's pretty funny.
For what it's worth.
Lucifer did something similar a few years ago. So like this isn't even a new thing, but Lucifer cast someone in a role and then they recast them later. So then when the series was done, they scrubbed the original version of it and just like edited the new guy in.
Damn. For what it's worth, Vecna in Stranger Things looks better than like fucking 90% of some of the like fantastical creatures I've seen in some of these like Marvel movies and shit. Like, it's a practical suit and it looks so fucking good.
As much as I love Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, as good as that movie I think it is, it has some dodgy CGI.
No,
like there's some
exactly
really dodgy CGI.
That's exactly what I was thinking, because like we finally watched that movie now that's on Disney Plus, and like I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm not usually the guy to complain about CG or bad effects. I'm really not.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't care. Like, if it looks good enough to convince me and, like, I'm fine with it, then, like, whatever. But I'm sitting here watching it, and I'm watching Scarlet Witch, and I'm watching Doctor Strange float up in the air to meet each other above the, like, temple. And it looks so shit. Like, it just looks bad. And so I'm just like, I don't want to be the person that complains about special effects, but, like, this looks so bad that it's literally like taking me out of this moment in a way that like typically does not happen with effects that are like maybe a little dodgy. So I'm just like, and like then you go back and look at fucking like Iron Man 1, and Iron Man 1 looks great. I don't understand.
If you thought the recent Phase 4 movies have not been good with CGI, like Black Widow and Eternals and Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange, don't watch Thor: Love and Thunder. That might be one of the ugliest looking movies I have ever seen.
Yeah, I hadn't really planned.
I didn't even hate it. I thought it was all right, but like it is so disgustingly bad looking.
Oh man, good to know.
Okay, I think we're pretty much done with Obi-Wan Kenobi though.
Oh
yeah?
shit, yeah,
Yeah.
Lightsabers, it's great. Star Wars, woo.
Alrighty. Gulp Shido's cameo was great.
Shido,
Justice for Gulp Shido. Anyway, let's go ahead and do quick ratings. I'm gonna do 2 ratings for this. I'm gonna do a rating for the show, and then I'm gonna do a rating for the fan cut, because I do recommend watching the fan cut. I'll put a link to it down in the description. I don't know how long that link will stay up. I downloaded it. I suggest other people do as well. So my rating for the series is a 2.5 out of 5 water moons that orbit a lava planet, because that was pretty fucking hype actually, just in creativity. And then my second rating for the film cut would be a 3.5 out of 5 hello there's.
Nice. Okay. I'm gonna give it, I don't know, I guess I'll be slightly generous. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. That's me being slightly generous. I'll give it a 3 out of 5 underwater doorways into the Inquisitor Fortress that one would think would have tighter security after the Countess just broke into there 5 years ago. But whatever.
It doesn't have any shields. Who would be dumb enough to attack it? Anyone that wanted to kill all the Inquisitors. How about that?
I will give it 2 out of 5 episodes that you think have finally ended after Obi-Wan talks to Bail Organa, but holy shit, there's still 15 fucking minutes left.
Alrighty.
Have you ever seen those like images that compare the like wide shot of Fortress Inquisitorius in Fallen Order versus how it looks in Obi-Wan Kenobi?
No.
Oh my god, it's so fucking... You guys have played Fallen Order, right?
Yes, I have.
Matt, how many video games do I play?
Not you.
You and I have talked about Fallen Order ad nauseum.
Yeah, no,
you know I've
yeah,
played it.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying that like
Ah,
the
you.
the establishing shot of Fortress Inquisitorius in fucking. I'm gonna send this real quick.
Okay.
The
I'm
establishing
still recorded, by the way. I haven't done my sign off.
Oh shit! I'm sorry.
And now the audience will never know what Matt's point was.
Yeah.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
I totally forget. Whatever. Do the sign off.
All right.
I'll bitch at this about you later.
Okay, so next week we're gonna do a discussion topic. I guess it's me, even though I feel like I just got done with things. But let's fucking. There's like so much shit I want to talk about, but this is legit just interesting. So, kind of based off our discussion of like the backdrops to blue screen to yada yada yada. Let's just talk about the evolution of filmmaking techniques and the influence of technology upon that. That just sounds interesting. So we'll get into that. Anyway, until next time, I'm the philosopher.
I'm the Obi-Wan Kenobi erotica lover.
And I just hate everything.
And we are here, Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Got nothing but Star Wars.